Welcome to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast, where we celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. And I'm so excited to tell you that we're partnered with Into the West Adventures, that I will be bringing a walking trip group to the Camino next year, the 30th of March to the 6th of April, from Sarria to Santiago. So it will be 5 days walking all through the countryside and towns of the beautiful villages we pass along the way. As you know, from anyone that has listened to my podcast or follows me on social media, I have done this trip twice, in 2017 and again in 2018, and it was absolutely amazing. I had such great experiences along the way, met the most amazing people, and have stories to tell and to share with everybody. So we've limited spaces available. If you would like to join us, please do let me know as soon as possible. You can find me on Instagram under Sharon Fitzmaurice underscore wellbeing, on Facebook, Sharon Fitzmaurice, on LinkedIn, or find me through my website, sharonfitzmauricemindfulness.com, because I know it's going to be another amazing trip. And now on to our next guest. So my guest today is Brenda Cormican. And after spending over a decade in the hospitality industry, a career which she eventually outgrew, she found herself feeling stuck and uncertain about her next steps. The birth of her first child in 2021 became a turning point, inspiring her to create a business that aligned with her passions and values, two of the words I love the most. You are very welcome, Brenda.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for having me.
Oh, so thrilled to have you. So I can resonate with you on many fronts already because I too worked in the hospitality industry many years ago. And after having not my first, but my second child, I made a huge change in my career. So absolutely, I can almost feel already we're going to have a great chat. So tell me about yourself, Brenda.
So my name is Brenda. I am a business coach for wellness professionals. So I have set up my own business now in the last 4 years. But yes, like you said, I started out in hospitality. I actually done a business degree in college, back in it feels like a previous life now. But I like that. I finished school not knowing what I wanted to do, not a clue what I wanted to do. And all my friends went off to college, and I found that I just took the year out. I just wanted to pause to find out. And I thought, when given the space, that I would find it. But I was waiting for the light bulb moment. I feel like I've always been waiting for the light bulb moment, but it didn't come. So I went along the trajectory that we often do. You know, you grow up, you go to college, you get a career, you know, you build a house, get a family, all that. So I thought, okay, well, the next logical step that everyone else is doing is I go to college myself. So picked a degree, picked business in tourism, never realizing I'd end up doing anything with business. I just did. I said I wanted to work with people. I've always wanted to work with people. So that's as much as I knew. And look, you could apply that to anything. So that's how vague I was and how unclear I was back then. So I did that for 4 years and literally just stumbled out of it again. Same story, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I literally stumbled into hospitality because again, I got the opportunity to work with people. And I did enjoy it for quite a long time, in that I had a variety of different roles, and that sustained me because I was always being, when I outgrew one role, I'd get another position and then I would get to be challenged again. And I love to feel challenged. So I spent a decade there, over a decade. I think it was like 12 years in total in the hospitality industry. But definitely the last 3, 4 years of it, I wanted to get out. I just didn't know where to go. I did not know where to go. So I felt completely stuck. And I was stuck in this fear cycle because ultimately, what I know now, what I didn't know then was I didn't know where I wanted to go because I didn't know myself. I did not know myself. And I was just in this cycle of stuckness and too afraid to move because it's stepping into the unknown. Because even though I felt stuck, it felt familiar.
Mm.
And, you know, we can get disillusioned and we can get very comfortable in the comfort zone. So I stayed comfortable in discomfort for quite a few years.
Mm.
And I started to do the inner work. I've always had a huge, huge passion for personal development, for psychology, for the way our minds work, for the way the world works. I've always been really deeply interested in that. So I went deep into mindset work, programs, workshops, you name it, got to know myself. And it's only recently I started picking up actually old diaries and journals of myself. And I was reading or going, oh my God, I seemed what I always used to think that I was lost, that I didn't, that I was lost. I always used to label myself as lost. But I see now with, I suppose, older and wiser eyes that I was never lost, that I was just becoming. And that was all just a step by step. That was the journey that I had to go through, that lack of clarity, that feeling of stuckness to be able to get out the other side.
Mm.
And I did that. I had my son in 2021, my first child, and that was the catalyst for me because I said I had 6 months of it. Well, I ended up having nearly a year of maternity leave in the end. And I said, if I don't make the step now, if I don't make the jump, I'm going to be stuck here for another 10 years or God knows how long. So I had to move, I had to do something. So again, didn't know where I wanted to go, even though I was deeply involved in the work at the time. I didn't know where I wanted to go, but I made the decision. And I always say the most important thing, or one of the most important things in life, is making the decision. It doesn't even matter what the decision is that you make, because you're either going to change your mind or you're going to go down the path. But making that definiteness of decision is when the action starts. You know, people sometimes think that confidence is you'll make the action or you'll take the action, make the change when you get the confidence. But confidence comes when you take the action. You know, clarity comes when through movement. You know, so that's what I done. Made the decision and I said, I'm not going back. So I again was waiting for the light bulb moment, but again didn't come. So I started again going deeper into finding myself. And I remember I was doing a program um, on mindset, and I was hit with a question. One of the very first questions in it is, what do you like to do? And it's such a simple question, but I hadn't a clue of the answer. I was staring at a blank page for so long, and I was like, it was like somebody had asked me for the very first time in my life, what do I like to do? What do I love to do? Because I knew what I could do. I've always been quite good at anything I've applied myself for. And I always say, you know, we can become fooled into believing that you love something just because you're good at it. And I did feel that for a long time. I thought I liked what I did because I was good at it. But that's just the ego, you know, the ego telling you, you know, you get a gold star because you're good, and that feeds into it. So I didn't actually know what to write on the page. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And again, I always think, you know, in school, they're great at telling you what you're good at again, you know, and you go to college based on how you performed academically in a certain subject, and you're almost guided along this path. But nobody's asking, what do you actually love to do? What brings you passion? What brings you joy? What lights you up? Where is your spark? Nobody's asking those questions. So it was like I looked at the page and it was completely blank, and I said, there's something very wrong here. How do I not know what I like to do? So that's where I started. I started asking myself, and I always say to people, you know, I talk an awful lot about passion and purpose and fulfillment. And I always say, you don't have, your purpose isn't necessarily linked to your job at all. But when you're in a job, regardless of what it is, you can find elements in there that you're passionate about. And that's the little spark that you follow. That's the little map that you take. Follow that. I love that word curiosity.
Mm.
Follow that little piece, little pebbles, little stones, little sparks that are bringing you down that curious route, and follow them until you start finding your own joy, your own spark, your own passion. And that's what I did. I eventually started following the threads, and I got into VA work initially because it was like a natural extension of what I'd been doing, like admin, social media management, that kind of stuff. And what I found was when I was working with business owners, yes, they love the strategy and they love the admin and they love the support, but what they really wanted or needed most was the mindset support. Somebody that would hold a space to believe in them, before they believed in themselves. And that's what I feel I do. I hold that space to let them see that they're so capable, that the possibilities that are inside their head are absolutely possible. And that's what I see that I'm doing. And I find it very ironic that I have found a life of purpose now by helping others live out theirs.
That's beautiful, Brenda. And again, as you're talking, you can hear the passion, about helping others and seeing them, be inspired by what they do, but they need support along the way. And I only said it to a group yesterday, no matter where we are in life, we all need support along the way because we're not meant to know everything or be able to do everything, but there are people out there that can help and support us and guide us along the way. And that's where we learn a huge amount about ourselves. It's almost, I say, it's about letting go of control, trying to control everything yourself. Now, when you were talking about, which was a really good point, that we're told in school, you're good at this. And I talk about that quite a lot, the labels, and that we're doing constantly to get wherever. And that is something I suppose we've all been programmed or conditioned to believe in our lives. But I suppose that's part of our growth as well, isn't it? Because again, we meet people, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they say, well, I was always told I was just good at this. And I never thought about changing until I was burnt out or it was coming to the end of my career. And I thought I really would like to do something. But like you, they looked at a blank page and said, what do I actually like? I've never thought about that myself. And it's something I think people, and again, when I'm working with people like you, I say, well, what do you like doing for you?
Mm.
And it's a question, even if our listeners are listening, that maybe they can just say, well, what do I actually like doing?
Yeah, it's such a
Where
simple one, isn't it?
absolutely, but it's quite hard for people because a lot of people are always doing. And where we believe that is best for us is going over my head constantly because the being in who we are is going to, and you talked about curiosity, is where we find that insight and inspiration within ourselves and we create those moments of joy and ideas spring from that. So I love that you said that because I'm sure there is many people listening and they're saying, God, what do I actually like doing? And that's going to start that questioning and that curiosity in their head. And it's from the simple questions that we sometimes start to change the way we look at ourselves, the way we
Yeah.
think about ourselves, and where we may like to go in our lives. So that even though people might think, as you said, it's a very simple question, it's a really important question to ask ourselves.
Yeah, and it's not even a one that sometimes people say to me, I don't know what I want. And I do kind of smile because I do think I used to be that way as well. But sometimes it's a case of you're not even allowing yourself to go there. You're not even entertaining the thought of because once I always say it's a fantasy world. You're getting into your imagination. And as soon as you allow yourself to go there, immediately the how starts to follow. Well, how could I do that? I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, don't have the capacity. All the hows start filtering through straight away and we shut it down. So before you say, I don't know what I want, ask yourself, well, is that truth? Does that feel like the truth to you? Because sometimes you're just not allowing yourself to get into that imagination and to get into that fantasy world where you can just park the how for a minute. I say just leave it aside, park it on your pillow or on your chair and just leave it aside for a minute and get into that fantasy. Who would you be if you could be anything and everything, you know?
Well, you know what? I'm smiling because I am, that's where I'm always thinking or imagining that everything is possible for each and every one of us. And it's part of, I suppose, that child within me. And I love to see the playful side and say, stop taking life so seriously. And if you could dream again in your childlike self, what would you dream about doing now that you've had the experience of living and being the adult for so long? What is it now you could imagine for yourself? And adults are so serious, aren't they? And they're like, oh, well, that's all right for you to say. And I'm going, we can all imagine, we can all be playful with what our lives would look like if you decided you were going to travel the world on the back of a Harley Davidson just for the fun. And again, it gets them to loosen up and think about what else could they do in their lives? What else could they imagine? And I've often said this, Brenda, I never had the vision board or the plan of my life because to me it seemed like it was very tunnel visioned and I was going to miss out on loads of opportunities if I only focused on these goals out here straight in front of me. Because, like you, I'm very curious and I like to look around. So I'd say to people, stop where you are and stop just looking straight ahead and where you're trying to go. Look around you. Who's with you? What can you learn from today's experiences? Who did you connect with that you admired and they inspired you? And why did they inspire you? Because again, we're not being present in our lives. We're thinking so far ahead constantly. Whereas I say, I learn everything I need to know today. And even
Mm.
doing the podcast, I'm always learning from the people that I work with. And that's where we need to be instead of the doing, is being present with ourselves and say, that really, that one sentence got me today. And what did that spark inside of me? And you talked about that spark inside all of us, and I call it the fuel for our passion. And it's like we're feeding it and we're asking more questions and we're starting to be a little bit more playful. And I think we need to come back to that, to having fun with ourselves, and that life is serious enough without adding more seriousness to it. Do you agree, Brenda?
Absolutely. And sometimes I think, we have it all so backwards. I always think that, um that Benjamin Button story where he's born as the old man and he
Yeah.
eventually becomes the child. I always think if we were born as old people, how imagine how grateful we would be as we get younger and how we would be. I think we would loosen the shackles a whole lot more and we
Yeah.
would really appreciate these our young, fitter, healthier bodies, and we would just give it our all, knowing what we had experienced before, and we would just do everything in reverse, not be held back by fear, but just really embracing it. I really think that we have it all back to front.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. And again, even my mind, my imagination goes, imagine going back the way. And again, that's what we need to have fun with. And I suppose really it's looking at and saying, if, when people are given a diagnosis in their life and they're going, God, I didn't do all the things I wanted to do, and I never got to travel to that country I wanted to see, or and I'm stuck in my job and I didn't really like it. It was okay, but why do we wait for big things to happen for us to realize that we're not completely happy or we're not feeling, like we're purpose driven or passion driven or we're not having fun or that we're feeling stuck in some way? And even when you were talking about, your career in hospitality and then the birth of your first child, sometimes it is in those big life moments, and we realize what's really important. So again, I say to people, never feel bad for how long it took you to get where you wanted to get, because sometimes we don't realize that until we've had some kind of a big change in our lives, whether it is having a child or moving to a new area or relationship, starting or finishing, or it could be a passing of someone in your family that you get to stop and say, hold on a second, am I valuing who I am in my own life? And is this my life, or is it being told what I was good at in my life? And again, coming back to the question of what could it look like if I changed just one little thing? And you talked about the choices and decisions. And it's another thing I absolutely agree with. Years ago, when I didn't believe I had a choice, and then I realized actually that's all I have today is a choice. And it is so powerful when you take that on board, whether it's just deciding to choose which food you're going to eat, or which direction you'll travel today, or which book you'll read, or which program you'll watch. We all have a choice in what we want to nurture ourselves with every day. So, really good points, Brenda. I love all of them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it is a case of, I always say, you asked, why do we just stay where we are and not, why does it take this big cataclysmic shift in our lives to move it out? And that sometimes it is, and that was what it was for me. It was the birth of our son, but sometimes it's an illness or something like that. And that often is the shift that it takes to change your belief system, because your belief system is so deeply ingrained in your subconscious mind from a young age, and the number one thing that holds us back is just that one word I'm always talking about is fear. Fear in all of its different forms. Fear of judgment. We're always worried about what other people are thinking, and that's ingrained from a young age. I always say you're 7 years old and you're running around in a restaurant. Don't be running around now, or the owner is going to get cross at you. That's fear of judgment starting from that young age. Then we grow up, we go into school, you're looking around at what everyone else is doing because we want to follow the pack, we want to fit in, of course. And then you get older and you either have your own business or you're working for somebody else. But again, we're looking around. What does everybody think of us? That's the fear of judgment, and it keeps so many of us stuck. But what does it really matter? I'm so passionate about the fact that, it's one life that you get. And when you're looking back at the legacy that you've left, do you really want to say, I didn't go for it because I was afraid of what a few people would think? Those people are either long gone or they're not around you anymore. Or even if they are, what does it matter? You
Yeah.
know, to release the shackles. Another fear of success, is another one that a lot of people don't talk about. I always love that poem from Marianne Williamson. It's my favorite poem, that it is our light that we fear the most, not our darkness.
Yeah.
That we're so afraid that if we can be all that we can be, that we may lose people along the way. And that may be a result of it, but it's not worth the the stuckness. It's not worth the dimmingness of your light to stay there, to stay playing small for the sake of others' opinions, of that fear of failure, fear of success. It's that inability to move and take action. That's what stops people in their tracks more than failure ever does.
Mm. And again, also maybe Brenda, that sometimes that what you call stuck, I call it um many things, but sometimes we need to actually pause, and as you might call it stuck, and other people might, or I've heard people saying to me, I'm at a crossroads, and I'm going, well, you have loads of directions. It's great. You have so many choices. You can go any way you choose, but you're deciding or listening to other people on what's best for you instead of deciding and choosing yourself or feeling what's right for you. But isn't it nice sometimes that we also come to those crossroads or stuckness in our life where it makes us stop and it makes us really look at where we are, who we are, what is creating happiness and what isn't. And I think we need times like that in our lives, all through our lives, because we're constantly changing and evolving. We're never the same. We're not the same person we were 5 or 10 years ago. And I don't think we need to be the same person we are. When people say, God, you've changed, have you? Maybe you have because you've gone in a different direction than they were used to you being in, or being the person that was always available or there for them. And now you're doing your own thing. You're living life for you and you're loving yourself for it. But other people are looking at you and go, well, I never see you anymore. So things change in life for us. But I love to, again, and I use the word pause, and I love to sit back and stop and go, just because everything is going great, but what else is there? What else is there in the world? Just as you said, like Benjamin Button, take a look around, remember where you've come from, be grateful for all you have, and who knows what's out there. And even if it is the unknown, that's quite exciting as well, isn't it, Brenda?
It is. And it's in a world that's always feels like it's like going so fast. We don't take the time to pause. And I'm really trying to lean into simplicity and presence this year. And a question that I've been asking is, if you pause and just say, if I pause now today and do nothing for the rest of the day, do I still feel supported in myself? Do I feel held? Do I trust that I am supported and that I am held? And I do. I deeply feel that I am by pausing. And every single time I pause and I pull back, that's when new opportunities come in. And of course, as humans, we forget that. And, I ended up going back into the rush cycle again and again, making mistakes, which we do. We have to make mistakes to learn and grow. But every single time I find that I pause, that's when the magic happens. And we need to lean into it because we're being pulled away all the time now on our phones, on every sort of gadget and technology. We're pulled away from the present moment all the time. And if we can just get back there, there is no, I always say there's no worry, there's no stress, there's no anxiety in the present moment. That's where we need to be getting back to simplicity, simplicity of living.
Absolutely. And you're speaking my language because I call that a purposeful pause. And it's something I would teach to everyone or guide or show or tell everyone, take the purposeful pause, create it as part of your day, that you're pausing on purpose. Because then that is your purpose in that moment. You're giving yourself the time that you need, the attention that you need, the break from doing that you need. And in those moments, just as you said, inspiration flows in. It's always flowing in, but we're too busy to listen and to create space for it. So, yes, absolutely. If I was shouting from the rooftops about the most important thing that I have learned through all of my years of experience, it is learning to take a purposeful pause. And like that, things flow in. I write down something, Brenda, and I go, it's interesting. We'll see where that goes. And
Mm.
it's creating opportunities for yourself, sometimes from those little insights that come in the moments where I may sit and I'm looking out even onto my garden today, Brenda, where I have a bird feeder and I have beautiful birds flowing in and sitting, and I could spend hours, if I had hours, just watching them. And the simplicity of their lives, we think, but they're surviving for food and they have a job to do, but they'll go and sit and listen to the wind and listen to the sun. But as human beings, we're always doing. We've become human doings instead of human beings.
But I think a lot of that is wrapped up in our self-worth. We
Yeah.
attach an awful lot of self-worth to our productivity levels. So if
Mm.
we're not seeing as doing, because again, we're looking around, seeing what everyone else is doing, and everyone else is doing. So if we're not doing enough, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
That's what it comes down to in its essence. And we're equating one with the other. So the
Yeah.
self-worth and the productivity are hand in hand. So if we paused, well, what would that mean? you know um and then when you bring in the whole element of the social media, another layer on top of that, it's almost like another element that we're bringing in, attaching to our self-worth now, is our validation. you know um our ego loves to see if we're performing well. It's our performance now. How many likes did we get today? How many comments did we get? How many follows do we get? How many people are watching us? Again, self-worth, productivity, and then the validation from that as well. Whereas if it all fell away and we just relaxed and tuned inwards again, I'm enough on my own. I'm
Mm.
enough by myself.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting as well about social media, or before social media, was it was all word of mouth. Social media was coming on, I think, a few years after I started my business. But again, a lot of us didn't even know how to use it, or a lot of our clients didn't have it, or the people around us. So for me, it was always word of mouth. And it's still kind of like that. But I suppose because we're in the age of social media, we feel like we have to put ourselves out there. Now, I love it because I have got to connect with the most amazing people, built amazing relationships. I've never had anything negative, only one thing years ago, but that is it. So again, it's how we see it or how we use it. And I had a thing this morning on LinkedIn congratulating me for being 15 years on LinkedIn. And I went, oh my God, I'm really only present the last year. I think I signed up to LinkedIn, but I didn't even know how to use it. And it was very, very professional at the time. And I'm all into well-being and spirituality and, writing my trauma story. And I thought, oh, these business professionals are not interested in that. But when I started connecting, I was connecting to people. I wasn't connecting to businesses. And there is
Mm.
a big difference. And that's what social media is for me. It's connecting to people. and then building relationships with people that I'm going to get on with, that I'm hopefully going to meet in person in the future, that I'm going to chat to on my podcast. For me, it was never about the amount of likes, because I think there was a thing on Instagram, maybe it was last year or the year before, where they stopped showing likes. And I
Yes.
thought, oh my God, I love that. I think that's amazing. And now there's an option you can hide likes on your page. Now, I never remember to do it, but I never get a chance to go and look and see who likes. If someone comments, I reply to them. I don't have time for it, because that now I know is not important to me, because it's about checking in who has connected with me and who I can reply back to. They're the important things, and where you want to spend and value your time. I was saying to another group the other night, a lot of people are supporting people they don't have a clue about. Big celebrities, people that are in different parts of the world, and they're liking and commenting. And that celebrity or whoever it is has no idea about you or me, Brenda. They're not worried about us. But all of the ordinary people, like me and you, are creating millions for those celebrities who have millions already. And that's where I ask people to stop and pause and again come back to, who are you really supporting? Who do you want to connect with? It's the same way walking down the street and shouting at the celebrity and his security guards pull him away because he doesn't want to get to know you. He's busy living his life. But is there a person across the road that has a business like you and they're starting off and you'd like to support them? Get to know that person. That's a real person that you can build a relationship with. So that's what social media has taught me over the years, Brenda.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to build relationships. And I always say some of the best relationships I have on there now are with people I've never actually met in real life, with
Mm,
other business owners. And I also say as well, especially as a business owner, it's so important to surround yourself with other people who are going through it. And just that notion, people always say, well, why aren't my friends and my family liking anything that I do, or why aren't they supporting? And I always say, well, it's not always intentional. They don't always understand the importance of what that means to you as a business owner,
mm,
so it's not intentional. But sometimes it can be that when other people can get triggered by your growth. When
mm.
there is a change in you, it almost is like their back goes up and it's like, well, does that mean now I have to change as well? And they're
Yeah.
subconsciously triggered and they don't even realize it. So there's a little bit of that at play as well. But ultimately what matters is surrounding yourself with the right people and the right support. And it is so fundamentally important when you're growing your business to be building and growing those relationships. And I
Mm.
always say, even from a sales point of view, in order for people to buy from you, I always say, then first of all, they need to know you, they need to get to like you, and number one is they need to get to trust you. And they do that by building rapport and building relationships and seeing, well, what areas do we have in common? How can I resonate with you? What do we have in common?
Yeah. And being real, isn't it, Brenda? For me, it's showing up as yourself, not just the business profile. When another day your hair isn't as tidy or you're in your trackies or your leggings or whatever it is, it's showing up as a real person. And that's one of the things I've seen on LinkedIn that has changed, that people are showing up as themselves. They're sharing quite personal moments that have affected their lives, their businesses, that has changed their careers. And that has changed the whole dynamic of LinkedIn now, where sometimes you see in other ones, it could be just pictures of people all the time and in their perfect self. And I'm going, but are you really like that all the time? You know? And for me, I always thought, if I can just be me and share the good times and the not so good times, the things that I found stressful, the things that I found that inspired or supported me, that's big. Again, you can't then feel judged if somebody sees you down the street and you're not perfect looking like you were on Instagram yesterday on the photograph. So I always say, show up as yourself. People get to know you. Just as you said, they get to trust you because you're speaking honestly about your own life and your experiences, like you're doing today on the podcast. And somebody goes, oh my God, I love that she said that. That's really now who I'd like to work with, because that's what people want. Trust, honesty, isn't it? And someone
Yeah,
being
and I said,
authentic.
thank God it is 2025 and people it's almost like we've come full circle. We are
Yeah.
starting to see all the all the fake stuff that was online, and we're finally getting back to that authenticity again. And I was just having a
Mm.
conversation with another coach this morning, and I said, and I also, the coaching industry is saturated, and the only way, I do believe the only way to survive in it is to be yourself.
Yes.
Because if you can stand in your conviction over your own honesty, your own values, and your own truth, you're in your own energy, then people that will gravitate towards you if
Mm.
they feel if your energy is magnetic for them, they will gravitate towards you. Because how can you not be successful and have people come towards you if you are just yourself? Of
Yeah.
course they will. If
Yeah.
you That the only way to survive is to be yourself. And I teach strategy, of course I do, and there's an importance to it, and to I also utilize the systems that you have to make them as effective as you can. But ultimately, it's finding your natural voice and standing in your own authenticity. And that's what will gravitate everything towards you.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And we'll get in because we could talk about all of this and it's fascinating, but I want to talk about your Elevate program as well and what you're offering to people. So tell us about your Elevate program then, Brenda.
Yeah, so my Elevate program, it's a 3-month coaching program, and it's deeply personalized. All of my coaching is deeply, deeply personalized. So I primarily work with wellness professionals, both men and women. And what the coaching program is, so it's a combination of one-to-one coaching sessions with the group element as well. So you get to connect with other business owners as well, which is supremely important. And the core pillars of my business is what I help people getting clear on their messaging. So, and that starts with getting clear on who they are, first of all. I always start with the person, getting clear on who they are. And then we look at seeing who are you speaking to. Getting so clear in who you're speaking to that it's almost like you're inside their head. Because we're scrolling through thousands of pieces of content every single day. And it's what can help people to stop and pause and resonate with what you're saying. So, clarity in your messaging, clarity in your content, and then creating a service suite that meets your customers along every step of their journey and that aligns with your own life. So, whether it be um, building programs that will allow you passive income. Uh, Identifying the programs that you have, what's working, what isn't working, how can we modify it? How can we maybe add in more? Like if I always work deeply with people on their values, so one of my biggest values is freedom. So I very much value my time because I have a young family, so I have to be very strategic with my time. So if I always say to people, if you are looking for time back in your life, yet you're packing your calendar full with loads of one-to-one sessions all over it, or packing it with lots of stuff going on, then you are in there's a disbalance there, there's a disharmony. So we need to look basically at looking at your offer suite and making it work for you as well. So that's a big part of what I do with my coaching, and it's deeply personalized. My energy is very activating, so I always say, there's nowhere to hide with me. You will be working, you will be moving, you will be taking action steps every single day towards improving your business.
That's wonderful. And when have you started? When did you start this Elevate program? When did you really decide this is it? This is what I'm going to do now?
So I've literally just launched it. So it's just gone. So I suppose it's been in my head. I came back from maternity leave last October, and I before I went on maternity leave, I was very much headed towards burnout. I always say I made all the mistakes in my business, so others don't have to repeat mine. I was very much heading towards burnout. I was full of one-to-one sessions, and I had it in my head that I would work like a dog effectively right up until maternity leave, just so I could work with as many people as I could, bring in as much money as I could, and then I knew I could just stop. Didn't work out that way at all. Um, Definitely not recommended. But look, it's a lesson that I had to learn that when it came to just stopping, of course I couldn't just stop. My mind was racing. I was stressed out. 7 months, more than 7 months pregnant at the time, So I made the decision then on my second round of maternity leave that again, I was not going back to the same grind and something had to change. So I started first of all, I always say when people are looking at, what offers will I create? I always say, well, instead of look asking what you can offer, I say a very good point to ask yourself is, well, what does the world need more of? It's a
Mm.
very good marker for what you can actually provide. So what does the world need more of? And once you have that, well, then how does that align with what you can offer? And what my world or my clients need support with is deeply involved in mindset support, and which is a huge part of my coaching, and also the marketing in their
Mm.
program. So I work with wellness professionals, and it's almost like a trend across the industry that they hate marketing. They'll always, it's the first
Yeah,
thing they say, I hate marketing. So I always try to make it in a way that is accessible to them and is very authentic to them. So I teach them the strategy, but in a way that would never apply. It's not like a one size fits all. It's very, very personalized to the individual so that we help them to find their own natural voice and what works best for them. And then it's just a case of showing up as their authentic selves.
very good, Brenda. Well done. So, anybody listening, they can book a free coaching call with you to see if you're the right fit or if they need support in saying, I'm not sure what I really want, because that's what a lot of people do, isn't it? They ring and they go, I'm not really sure where to start, what I need, and you may be able to help them in that. You also have a free download on your site. Is it Navigate Your Niche Guide?
Yeah, so navigate your niche is one thing people find quite difficult to kind of um, map out or define is who they want to speak to in their business. So getting clarity, and that guide, first of all, gives you clarity in yourself and your own values and your mission and your purpose and your wants and your desires. And then it gives you clarity on who you want to speak to. So it's like a self-guided journal of questions that has brought a lot of people clarity in their first steps. So I always say before you go creating content, everyone wants to talk about content. Before you go creating all that content, you need to get really clear on who you are and then who the person that you're speaking to is. And then you go about and start creating the content. So yes, that's a free downloadable guide. The other area that I work with people is in the creative space. That is something that I launched early this year. So that is a group program for business owners who are in their first 18 months in business and are looking to build the solid foundations in their business. So again, getting clear on their messaging, getting clear on what offers that they can build and create, email marketing, again, of course, a lot of mindset support, and it's a weekly group call. So there's that element of having other business owners with you along the way, and it's given people huge confidence in taking those first steps in their business. So that's the next round of that is in June of this year as well.
Very good. I'm thinking back to when I started in my business in 2008, and there was, as I said, not much social media. There wasn't really business support for solopreneurs or for small businesses online. And I think about all the things that we had to learn just by the experience of it. It was amazing too, that it was an amazing experience for me, I think, as well. But yeah, I think it would have been a little bit easier if there was more support like there is now. But again, I learned so much about myself and taking those next steps. And sometimes, just as you said, creating something that wasn't there
Yeah.
yourself. If you couldn't find it, I created it. And it is powerful what we can do. And just as you said about the poem or the quote by Marianne Williamson, it's finding that light and our light within us and letting it shine so bright that we are guided by it,
Yeah.
and that we don't have to hide in the fear. We can walk alongside fear. That's absolutely fine because fear can motivate us as well and it can help us to face challenges. But again, it's allowing ourselves and to feel good about ourselves when we achieve something, even the smallest thing, even if it's just saying, today I'm going to book a call with Brenda. And they'll go, geez, I never thought I'd reach out and ask somebody to help me in my business. But maybe that first step is them starting to shine their light. And for me, it's always, and my motto for years was one step at a time. And when we
Yeah.
take that pause and we say, look at the step I'm on now, and then you look back and you've 5 steps done already, that's an amazing feeling, isn't it, Brenda?
It is. And we often think, it is just that one initial step that kind of snowballs. And you look back, and I always say, keep a journal with you and to look back, and you will not believe what does Bob Proctor say? You need a magnifying glass to see as far back as you have come because you don't realize that they all add up, every single one of along the way. But it's getting ourselves out of that procrastination mode, out of that overwhelm mode. And you do that by literally just taking one action step. And one question I always have for people is, what's one action step you can take today that can bring you towards your goals?
Love it. Brenda Cormican, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was lovely talking to you. You're very passionate and very knowledgeable, and I can see even the steps that you have. They are simplified, you know, that you can get a person to really look at themselves, their niche, where they want to go. And I think that's what we need instead of all this highfalutin language sometimes that people are going, I'm afraid to go near that person. I don't know what she's talking about. Whereas you're speaking a lot of our language. It's like, what can I do today? I love it. So if people want to find you, you're on Instagram, Brenda Cormican Business Coach, on Facebook, Brenda Cormican, LinkedIn as well. And they can also check you out through Linktree, Brenda Cormican Business Coach. Have I got all of those right, Brenda?
You have indeed, yeah. I also have a website, brendacormicanbusinesscoach.com.
Lovely. Very good. Brenda, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it was lovely to have you. And I wish you every success in your business. And I'm delighted that you have found this lovely purpose that you're so passionate about. And it's amazing. I just love to see people doing something for themselves that is going to help others. It's really, really powerful, Brenda, and it's shining through in and around your energy. So well done.
Thank you, Sharon. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. So thank you to everybody for listening. And until next time, take care of you.